Tonight on the All Kinds Weather Forecast, we preview the SEC opener in the Swamp. Texas A&M comes to Gainesville to take on the Gators. Can the Gators get a massive opening win against their SEC opponent? Find out tonight on the All Kinds Weather Forecast. And welcome in to another episode of the All Kinds Weather Forecast. I am your host, Chris Yanes, alongside my co-host, Neil Schulman, here in the heart of Gator Nation, a Gator Nation that is eagerly awaiting to see who the starting quarterback is for the game on Saturday, and we'll be previewing that in this episode tonight. But before we get to all of that, want to shout out our sponsor. The All Kinds Weather Forecast is proudly sponsored by 401k Generation, the wealth management company that helps you invest today for your future tomorrow. Their team of advisors is committed to providing guidance and education for your 401k plan and its participants. And they also offer a range of enrollment solutions tailored to meet the unique needs of your company's 401k plan. Whether it's your savings for your child's college, investment advice, or even your retirement, 401k Generation's team of advisors makes getting to know you their top priority. Their advisors will tailor a path to assist you in navigating life's financial milestones and reaching your financial goals. 401k Generation, building stronger futures, one generation at a time. For more information, contact them at 866-998-5879 or visit their website at 401kgeneration.com. And shout out Eddie Rojas of 401k Generation. We love you, Eddie. Hope you're watching the show, listening to the show, like what you're hearing. And if you do like what you're hearing, Gator Nation, make sure you are hitting that subscribe button down below on YouTube. Like this episode. Leave a comment down below what your score prediction is for the Texas A&M game and whether Graham Mertz or DJ Lagway should start. Or if you believe in the two-quarterback system, let us know down below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And we'll be talking about that later in this episode. But before we get to that controversy, Neil, that is brewing in the quarterback room, we got to talk about the storylines in the game outside of that. Now, of course, this is the third of the seventh meeting between Florida and Texas A&M, the third time they are meeting in Gainesville since 2017. So this is a pretty big-time matchup for the Gators. It seems like the Gators...
It's the first time they've met since 2017, not the third.
Oh, you're right. That's right. They played a really...
They met in College Station twice.
They met in 1962 in Gainesville. I read the sheet wrong here, my notes, so appreciate that, Neil. But so the Gators, for the second time in 7 seasons, will take on the Aggies at home. It is a little weird, though, that this is the 7th time and the 6th time since they've joined the SEC. And Georgia has only played them a grand total of 2 times, yet the Gators have somehow faced them 6. Riddle me that. I don't know SEC.
Georgia's only played them once. Wait a minute. No, Georgia got to host them in 19. That's the only time they've played them. They have not gone to College Station.
Are they playing this year?
No.
Well, never mind. I misspoke again. So why am
I
I fact
check ourselves right at the style?
Yeah. All right, I love it. But anyway, so that's the storyline here. This is a massive SEC matchup. Traditionally, the third Saturday in September has historically been the Gators versus the Tennessee Volunteers. It's a little weird seeing Texas A&M be that opening game for the SEC, and we're not playing Tennessee until October. But nonetheless, here we are. In Mike Elko's opening season for the Aggies, his third game now, and first road contest and starting in College Station. We'll see how he fares there. This is the first meeting between Billy Napier and Mike Elko. And, I got to say, I think that this is an interesting matchup because you've got 2 divergent coaching styles. You've got 2 coaching tenures at different points. Napier in his 3rd season trying to prove himself and maybe perhaps hanging on by a thread now. And Elko getting a program off the ground that has been underwhelming on its previous regimes with all the resources that Texas A&M has. Can Mike Elko utilize that early in his tenure and get a signature win on the road against the Gators, as this would be a signature win at that? And then, of course, can the Gators defense respond and their offense move the ball against 2 former defenders who are now wearing Aggie uniforms? You're going to recognize a few of them on Saturday. Scooby Williams at the linebacker position and Jadon Hill at the cornerback position. They'll be squaring up against them, and Shamar James definitely put some bulletin board material out there this week when he told Trayon Webb, if you see Scooby Williams and Jaden Hill, just run right at him. That's going to be some good talk on the field on Saturday. So those are some of the storylines coming in this game. Neil, what are you most excited for heading into this matchup?
I'm excited to see if Florida is finally going to play like it believes in its coach's mantra of scared money don't make money. We've been hearing all about that. We've been seeing it on shirts and merch past couple of years. Let's play like it for once ever under Billy Napier. I mean, you could talk about the quarterback position there. Obviously, we're going to talk about that in a whole separate segment. That's probably going to dominate the majority of the show, but let's see a Florida team play pissed. Let's see a Florida team play like it knows it has something on the line. And for Texas A&M, like you said, it's a big game for them. Not because it's a road game and they haven't won a road game since 2021, which is crazy to think about. Even Napier's won a road game in each of the last two seasons. But let's see, if you're Nagy, let's see if Mike Elko really has what it takes. Because the Notre Dame loss obviously looks a lot worse now than it did when it first happened. That, you can no longer say that that's a quality loss, if such a thing exists in the 12-team playoff era. That's gone. So let's see if they can rebound and at least take some steps forward toward becoming a player in the SEC. And to be able to go on the road and beat a reeling team, that's your chance. Because like Florida, they don't have a very easy schedule. Now, the teams they play are different than Florida. But again, when you're in the SEC, you're not going to have many chances to win games if you don't have everything firing on all cylinders. This is one of them because both teams happen to be kind of reeling right now. So it's a desperation bowl of sorts, certainly for Florida, but also for A&M to see if they can get something going quickly after sputtering in the mud the first week against Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's a good point because, I think everybody looked at that week one loss when it happened against Notre Dame at home. They played a really good game for almost 4 quarters. It really wasn't until midway through the fourth quarter, Notre Dame scored that go-ahead touchdown, and they added a field goal at the end to make that game 2 scores. But really, it was a 1-score game throughout, and A&M played lights-out defense and played extremely well on that side of the ball. And then 1 week later, Notre Dame comes home for their season opener and loses to a team where they were a 4+ touchdown favorite against a MAC team. And it's just, now we have to look at it. Okay, was that a week one overreaction or was just a one-off bad performance for Notre Dame? We don't know. And Notre Dame is not, I would say, an elite program from a talent standpoint. They're certainly not the Georgia, Texas, Ohio State mold, but they were regarded as a college football playoff contender going into week 2. And now I think a lot of people are second guessing that based on the result in college or up in South Bend. So we'll see what Texas A&M team shows up against McNeese. They won 52-10. Now that is a little bit, I guess, masked a little bit in the performance. It was mostly done through the ground. Connor Wegman still did not have a stellar game. He was 11 for 14 for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, Marcel Reed, the backup, came in and threw 71 passing yards, but they still didn't even have 200 yards of passing against a McNeese team, an FCS team that Florida played last year and put up much better passing statistics against. So I'm curious. I think that the Mike Elko identity is a physical football team. They ran for 333 yards, 5 touchdowns. So it could have been an example where they just didn't want to show a whole lot on tape through the air and are saving it for this game. Or like what I think, Neil, is that this is a matchup where Elko is going to try to impose his will and physicality, and that is his identity that he's looking to bring in his tenure at Texas A&M.
Yeah, I mean, Florida doesn't have a whole lot of pride left in the trenches after what happened against Miami. I mean, I used the word reeling a minute ago. I mean, you got to show me something after that performance on both sides of the line of scrimmage, but especially on the defensive side. The offensive line, you can say, all right, there was a nice pull block by Jake Slaughter. There's a nice seal by Austin Barber. You feel pretty good, generally speaking, about those two guys. The defensive line really hasn't done much of anything. And granted, Samford, they looked a little bit better, but even still, they weren't as dominant by as crazy of a margin as you may have thought when it's the Florida Gators going up against the Samford Bulldogs. So, I mean, you want to talk about imposing your will and being physical in the trenches. This is it. This is your chance to go out and show us what you're made of. Because if you're not able to win your matchups one-on-one in the lines of scrimmage in this game, I can think maybe Mississippi State or maybe Central Florida and maybe FSU, but there aren't going to be a lot of favorable matchups for you in the lines of scrimmage the rest of the season. So if you can't look good in this game, boy, I wouldn't want to be the one trying to explain that tape to an NFL draft scout, because you got to put something on tape that's going to inspire some confidence in a team to draft you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, Neil, let's talk a little bit about let's get to the big storyline of this game. So we mentioned a couple at the top, Lagway and Mertz. All indications, what we're hearing is that Graham Mertz will be cleared out of concussion protocol, and he will get the start on Saturday versus Texas A&M. Now, Billy Napier in his press conference on Monday did not commit, though. He actually didn't commit to a starter at all. This is really just people projecting at this point and really just predicting what they think is going to happen. But it does appear that a 2-quarterback system could be in the cards on Saturday. There's certainly precedent in history for it at Florida. It happened numerous times during the Steve Spurrier regime. Urban Meyer did it in his second season at Florida. We know in that 2006 season. And certainly, I think he referred to, I don't want to give the wrong name. What was the name again for in 2010?
Threebo.
Yes, the
three guys who could do what one guy did.
Exactly. Jordan Reed, John Brantley, and Trey Burton. Listen, historically, that 8-5 season now doesn't look so bad compared to the ones we had. We'd be begging
for Ron Zook back now.
Yeah, but, so there is some precedence for this. There was a controversy everybody knows 2 years ago between Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson, but now we have a new one, and everybody saw the performance that DJ Lagway put up, 18 of 25, 456 yards, a true freshman record a true freshman record period, but in his first game nonetheless, and 3 touchdowns, no interception. So a stellar performance for Lagway. And now a lot of fans this week are calling for him to get the start from here on out. So Neil, what do you think is, let me put it this way. If Graham Mertz does get the start, but they are splitting snaps, how does that go for the game?
I think that really depends on how the first drive or two goes with Mertz, and then it becomes a question of if the defense is giving him stuff, because the whole thing with Mertz is he takes what the defense gives you, right? So if the defense is giving him stuff between 5 and 15 yards down the field and he's hitting them consistently and the Gators are moving the ball, I don't think it's likely that you're going to go away from that, even if Lagway does present the, oh my God, look at that, wow type of play. Napier's, honestly, in hindsight, it's offensive to our intellect that he used the phrase "scared money don't make money," and we took it and ran with it. That's kind of on us too, that we actually believe that. He's been the exact antithesis of that. He has been the high floor, low ceiling, the low risk, low reward, the safe play, it's not going to lose us the game over the chance to win the game, but chance to lose the game kind of guy for Florida. And that's Mertz. That's Graham Mertz in a nutshell. Now, there's some toughness with him that I admire personally. I know you do. A lot of Gator fans, I'm sure, are appreciative and respect the toughness he has, like the touchdown run against Tennessee a year ago that comes to mind, where he then took he took a nightstick or a baton or something and he swung it, which is cool.
Yeah.
Like
Tennessee game last year.
Yeah, right. So there's that. There's the fact that he literally gave his body for us last year in the Missouri game. There's a lot of respect there, but he's also not the kind of guy that's going to make that 40 to 50 yard throw on air that makes you go, oh my God, that's an NFL throw right there. Or be able to run away from pressure if the offensive line breaks down, which, as we've talked about ad nauseum before, tends to happen with the right side of this offensive line. We still don't know now, especially breaking news, Florida's not releasing its depth chart anymore.
Yep. We
don't know who's going to play on the right side of the line. We have no indication that Austin Barber and Jake Slaughter will not play. Barber, you could say maybe they were saving him. if that continues, if they don't play Barber against A&M, that's outright malpractice. But using logic, we think those two guys are going to play. Beyond that, we don't know what the line's going to look like. And that's because nobody has separated themselves as particularly better than anyone else they're competing against for reps. So Mertz can't really help you solve that problem the way a mobile guy like DJ Lagway can, because, well, you'd prefer to block for them, but if you can't do that, you'd at least prefer a guy that can run away from it. So again, because of the constant, Graham Mertz being the guy that was here last year and a year further along in terms of familiarity with the offense, and him having that extra year of familiarity with the receivers, and him being previous teammates with Chimere DK at Wisconsin and all that, it doesn't feel like he's likely to be taken out of the game unless something goes horribly wrong. Either, God forbid, another injury. It's the last thing we need, or he's just not being very effective.
I think that this may be just wishful thinking, but I do believe that Napier understands the gravity of the game.
Do you? Do you really?
At this point, yes. I think that the Miami game was an inflection point, and he realized where before he thought, okay, I'm going to get 5 years to implement my program. I think that all that goodwill that he built up over the offseason went away in that afternoon. And he reads the tea leaves. He knows that internally within the program, the high stakes people who donate a lot of money to this program have gotten together and have already talked about the future. Most of them are already out on him, and that they're just waiting for the moment to pull the trigger. So if he loses this game, in my opinion, it truly is at that point only a matter of time. If he wins the game, he doesn't stop the hot seat talk, because that doesn't go away unless you ring off 5 to 6 games like we talked about. But it does, at least for a week, subside the issues that he had against Miami. So, all that being said, if this game in the first half is starting to resemble something that was transpiring against Miami, I do believe Billy Napier will pull the trigger and go with DJ Lagway going forward.
But he didn't in that Miami game. But that's the curious thing. But the difference, he knew that game was important, and he still didn't make a move.
See, but the difference is that it was the first game of the season. Mertz was not hurt yet, and nobody had seen actually DJ Lagway perform in a game. Now they have. The cat is out of the bag. You've opened Pandora's box.
Counterpoint, he had seen him perform in practice for 9 months.
But perception is reality. The perception now. Well, they're not actually to that point. There's a lot of reports out there that DJ Lagway is a straight up gamer. And I remember I've listened to Shane Matthews' podcast, and he talked about how we observed at practice that Graham Mertz is a fantastic guy at practice, and DJ Lagway is not. He misses throws in practice, he misses reads, but when he shows up at the game, he's balls. And that is very evident when you watch his high school tape. And it looks like it's carrying over early on in his college career here at Florida. We'd like for that to change as the routine and the discipline of going through the process of properly practicing. But I could see a scenario where if he's not practicing correctly, that maybe he didn't know that fully what he was going to get in the game. But now he does. Now he's seen it, and now more importantly, the fans have seen it, so you can't avoid it anymore.
So I'll revert back to what I said after the Miami game. In that therapy session, Napier does not deserve the benefit of the doubt because his record tells me that he is going to fail. Because, like I said, it's not meant in an ad hominem way, like a playground bully way. It's just go Google his record way. He's a loser. He's lost more games than he's won. He's made more bad decisions than he's made good decisions. It took him 2 years to figure out that he might need to do something about his special team situation that was costing us games left and right. Has he ever really fixed the offensive line? I mean, yeah.
Not at Florida.
So, right. So, like, that's still resolved. That's still unresolved after that was a problem the past couple of years. He still doesn't have an offensive coordinator or a play caller. And now, Florida's not just losing games, but they're getting embarrassed in games. I mean, Miami, we know, but late last year, too, LSU, a school record for yards in a single game. Missouri, a 4th and 17. The ways that Florida are losing games more recently are becoming more comical for rivals and more unbelievable for non-Gator fans or average fans or even Gator fans, just I cannot believe we lost that game type of way. Whereas earlier in his tenure, they were that's annoying, or that sucks, or I wish that didn't happen. But they're just getting more and more crazy now. And all the while, he has stuck with his guns and done everything the same way that he's always done things and continues to want to do. Why is he going to change now? You thought he understood the gravity of the Miami game. You thought he understood the gravity of the FSU game last year or the Arkansas game last year. Gators didn't win those games. So why am I supposed to believe now that he finally gets it after all those data points where he didn't?
We'll see, Neil. I mean, that's why we play the games, and we'll see on Saturday. I mean, he's going to get the opportunity to coach. I think that he does understand, though. I'll say this. Something changed in the media narrative, in the fair narrative after that Miami game. It changed, and I think he senses it. He knows it, and that's why I believe let's say Gators are down 24-10 at half, or down by 2 scores or something like that, and they're struggling. They can't move the ball. I do think a switch is going to happen. I really do. I do think we're going to see DJ Lagway in the first half. I think he's going to get a drive. He's going to get plays. He's going to get packages. The cat's out of the bag now. He can't not play him because of what he can mean for the offense. Now, there's the old saying that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. You know, I tend to agree with that. And I think at this point, you sort of just need to rip the Band-Aid off like we talked about in the post-game episode of Samford. So we'll see what happens this Saturday. But I do believe that Lagway gives us the higher ceiling, and I'm more inclined to actually favor Florida in this matchup if he's the outright starter.
That's the thing, too. I know what Billy Napier said in the press conference. We have 2 great quarterbacks, and we intend to use both of them. In one ear, out the other. We heard that before the Miami game, too. Lagway didn't play a single snap until the game was already over and Mertz was hurt, by the way. Not even because Mertz had gotten... or not even because the game had gotten out of hand. It was because Mertz got injured that Lagway saw the field. And I will say, to Billy Napier's credit and in his defense, he doesn't owe anybody an explanation or insight, not even the boosters who pay a salary and can just as easily pay for his buyout. Part of the game is gamesmanship. I think that's part of why Florida's not releasing a depth chart. They want to have that element of surprise, because the element of surprise, at least with a competent in-game coach, which Billy Napier clearly thinks he is. Okay, that's worth something. But come 3:37 p.m. Saturday afternoon, whenever the Gators get their first possession of the game, we're going to learn a lot about Billy Napier's plans for his own personal future. Does he want to coach the Florida Gators moving forward, or does he want to just collect $25.6 million to not coach the Florida Gators moving forward? You say he understands the gravity of the situation. I say I have seen 0 evidence up to this point to tell me that he does. If I am wrong, that is because new evidence has presented itself to me that I did not previously have in my possession. And when new evidence is presented to me, I reserve the right to change my mind when that new evidence counteracts everything I have seen before. But since I don't currently have it, I am under no rational obligation to do so. By the way, just quick shout out here. Slight tangent, but in that $25.6 million, yeah, there's no mitigation in there. Meaning if he takes another job, he's still owed $25.6 million. So thank you, Scott Strickland, for that. That's real helpful. Anyway, Graham Mertz, just to be very clear, did nothing wrong. And we said that after the Samford game. We'll say it again now. He's done nothing wrong. He has not lost the job. He doesn't deserve to lose the job. It's that DJ Lagway deserves to win it. And we talked about the Kelly Bryant and Trevor Lawrence comparison at Clemson. Kelly Bryant won a lot of games. Kelly Bryant got them to a CFP, and clearly because he landed at another SEC program afterwards in Missouri, granted not a blue blood, but still another SEC program, clearly he's worth something. That's probably the best comparison to make here. Graham Mertz is a solid quarterback, and he is certainly worthy of respect. But what happened at Clemson was Dabo Swinney realized that not only is his true freshman quarterback got the higher ceiling, and not only does that true freshman quarterback unlock your potential down the road, that true freshman is your key to win now. Not just down the road, now. Because of that extra, well, it's different because Lagway is a different type of athlete than Trevor Lawrence. But in that case, because Trevor Lawrence was just better. In this case, because DJ Lagway is more of an athlete and can do more things and unleash different dimensions of the offense. But you don't sit Trevor Lawrence for Kelly Bryant if you have Trevor Lawrence on your team. You just don't do that. It's the same thing here. You don't sit DJ Lagway for Graham Mertz if you have DJ Lagway on your team. It's nothing against Graham Mertz. It's just you have to play the guys who are better, who are going to give you the better chance to win, not just in the future, but today. And as we saw, yes, I know it was Samford, but Chris, we went over that game, Phil. There was some good coverage in that game by Samford corners. Yes, there were some busts, but there were some really tight windows that DJ Lagway threw those footballs into, that Texas A&M or Alabama or Georgia or Texas corners really couldn't cover any better with any better technique. There just wasn't space. And Lagway, off balance, hit those throws. You cannot see that and not start the guy if you want to have a future in Gainesville. It's just that simple.
Yeah, well, there'll be a storyline written on Saturday night, Sunday morning, and we'll see what it is. It could be the beginning, I think, of the if Lagway comes in and wins us the game, he's the starter from here on out. I don't think there's an argument for that. Now, the other scenario that could be play out and prolong this is if, let's say, the Gators find a way to win playing both, because that will then mean you have a two quarterback system.
That's almost worse.
I would agree. I would prefer you actually come out with one or the other moving forward. I really don't want to play both. This is not a Leak Tebow situation. Put aside the fact that we're not a national champion contender like we were in 2006. It is that, Chris Leak was a better passer than Tim Tebow and had a command of the offense in his second season at Florida. Was he not able to open up fully the spread offense playbook that Dan Mullen and Urban Meyer wanted to run? Yes. But he was still a very good quarterback, still holds numerous passing records at the University of Florida. This is a situation where, Graham Mertz played very well in his first season, but DJ Lagway is the future of the program and could become a star in college football based on the early returns of what we've seen. So we'll see what happens. There'll be a story written out about this. We'll certainly talk about it here, so make sure you're following along and subscribe to our show. But I think we need to move on to the last bit of news, and then let's preview this game, and that is the musical chairs that has happened between these two programs. So we mentioned at the top, Scooby Williams, Jaden Hill, that they're going to be playing on the other side of the ball for Texas A&M there. But also Jay Bateman, former linebacker coach at Florida, is now the defensive coordinator at Texas A&M. Coach Chaos, Sean Spencer, landed at Texas A&M after he was relieved of his duties this past offseason. And Joe Hamilton was there for a couple of months before Florida stole him back, thankfully, into the program and has helped us reinvigorate those Texas recruiting pipelines. And hopefully that remains the same for the future. Joe Hamilton was a big piece of why DJ Lagway is a Florida Gator. So there's a lot actually of the staffs are very familiar with each other. Bateman clearly familiar with Billy Napier and his offense, and also some of those defenders at Florida. Same with Coach Chaos. But that being said, that means Billy Napier is familiar with Jay Bateman and Coach Chaos and the schemes that they run on that side of the ball. So there certainly will be some gamesmanship this Saturday because of that relationship and because of the fact that they know each other very well. But it is always fun in college football now that we have this transfer portal, plus the fact that the coaching carousel is ever revolving around, and these matchups are bound to happen in a certain period of time.
Yeah, the other thing too, DJ Lagway was very, very strongly considering going to Texas A&M, both before and after. Well, no, sorry, before Joe Hamilton was recruiting him to play at Florida. He grew up in Texas, so he liked the Aggies from, I don't want to say like a peewee age, but he was looking at Texas A&M as a kid because that was the local team along with Texas and TCU, I guess. But the home state team, think about that. Like all the players he's got to know on that sideline for A&M. So a storyline there. And also, again, the desperation doesn't even come close, really. Like for Florida, this, I don't want to say life and death because it's obviously not that serious, but for Billy Napier, this is his job. This is it. You can't lose this game. Talk about you lose to A&M, a team that hasn't won any game outside of Kyle Field since 2021. But Florida will have lost 4 straight games in the Swamp, which is unheard of. There's just no way.
Well, we won we won last weekend.
To FBS opponents, I mean.
Oh, sorry, FBS. Okay.
To FBS opponents, maybe I didn't say that, but that's absurd, Chris. I don't know if Napier knows the gravity of this game or not. Again, I tend to think he doesn't, but I'm sure that players do. I'm sure that assistants do. And maybe Billy Napier does, but I just don't think we're going to see any evidence of that on the field. I don't think anything is going to happen on the playing field that shows us that he understands the gravity of the situation, because he's never shown any ability to change or adapt when he's presented with a mountain of evidence that what he's doing isn't working.
Yeah.
But boy, do we have storylines for this game, for sure.
We do indeed. So let's go ahead and let's preview the offense and defensive matchups in this game. Obviously, we know Florida is likely to be trotting out at least one of 2 quarterbacks in this game. That is DJ Lagway and or Graham Mertz. DJ Lagway currently, by virtue of the fact that he had a stellar second game, is far and away the leading passer for the Florida Gators with 400 and almost 500 yards on the season, 3 touchdowns to his 1 interception. In the Miami game, he is throwing almost 68% completion. Graham Mertz had a bad first game, so his stats are not as reflective of what he put up in his first season. Montrell Johnson, workmanlike, 26 carries, 173 yards, 3 scores, at least 1 in both games thus far. Jaden Ball, right now, currently the second leading rusher on the team, starting to live up to that hype he got in the fall camp. We'll see if he continues to get more carries. Certainly going to have to make up for the fumble in the Samford game, but we'll see how he progresses. And look, we've got an emerging duo here in the receiving core. Eugene Wilson and Elijah Badger, nearly 200 yards apiece. Badger still has not gotten his touchdown. He probably should have had it on the long, deep ball on the second drive of the game if he had maybe just caught that ball more in stride and taken it the other way along the sideline. But those 2 guys are starting to make defenses have to cover both. And if you can really spread out this offense and get some more receiver sets, those guys could make a difference in this matchup. And A&M has not really, I don't think, faced a potent passing attack yet. Notre Dame certainly has not shown that in their first 2 games, and Cert McNeese not up to snuff to an FBS team. So this is a matchup I think, Neil, we could probably exploit that receiver versus secondary matchup there. And I think the game could be won and lost at the line of scrimmage, but an X factor could be if Florida's able to have time to get back and get through the progressions, depending on who the quarterback is, and work the field. That is something that I think we have an advantage of maybe in this matchup. So let's look at it. Let's go position by position. Let's see who we think has the advantage. We did this for the Miami game. We're going to do this again here for the A&M game. We're going to try to keep this a consistent thing going forward. So really quick, Neil, lightning round, quarterback, who do you favor in this matchup between the potential 2 quarterback system and Connor Wegman?
I favor Florida if it was Graham Mertz. I don't think that highly of Connor Wegman as a passer. I mean, I guess he's not like DJ Uiagalelei level inconsistent, but he's done nothing to impress me. So Florida.
I agree. Whether Mertz or Lagway starts, I like us in this one. Rushing. We mentioned a running back. We mentioned Montrell Johnson. I did not talk about Texas A&M's running back, and that is Le'Veon Moss, 154 yards on the season, 3 touchdowns. Amari Daniels, almost 100 on the season for him, and 2 touchdowns. So this is a good team right here with the running attack. This one for me, I might actually favor A&M in the running back room.
I would say Florida if I wasn't now afraid of ball security. I think that's a big thing. And I know that Jaden Ball only had 1 fumble. It's not like he has a history of it. But again, he is a freshman and, maybe he learned from it. But because that's really the most recent thing I've seen, I'll say A&M because I do like Le'Veon Moss as a runner. I think he does have good vision. I think Florida's running room is deeper. I think Jacoby Jackson showed some things for us that could make him a very, very valuable RB3. But I'll call it a push. They're very different running back runners, but push.
I'm gonna take A&M here, and I'm gonna also take them on the offensive line too. I think that right now Florida just hasn't shown anything on the line of scrimmage, and I think that's maybe why I'm favoring the running backs for Texas A&M, because I think they showed in the McNeese game, lights out, 333 yards. They moved the ball somewhat. The best way they moved the ball against Notre Dame was through the ground as well. So I'm gonna take A&M in this matchup of running backs and also for offensive line.
Yeah, Florida's offensive line is comprised of two very good pieces, and then the rest, boy, I don't know. Again, we still don't know who the starting offensive line is going to be. I mean, we rotated so many pieces in and out of that game against Samford that I don't know that Florida's two offensive line coaches trust any combination right now. So A&M, and it's going to be pretty much Florida's opponent by default, aside from maybe Mississippi State or Central Florida until proven otherwise.
Yeah. All right. So receiver and tight end. I definitely like Florida's room here, both in the receiver and the tight end room. Florida's A&M really hasn't worked the tight end room that much. Florida, certainly everybody knows about the 12 personnel Billy Napier likes to run. Hayden Hansen alone, our leading tight end pass catcher thus far this season, actually has more than the two top tight end receivers combined for A&M. So I really do like what Florida can do here on this side of the ball. I mentioned it just before we started this segment. I think this is an X factor that Florida can exploit in this game and get some explosive plays that really are going to maybe open up that run game more so for the Gators.
Florida by a pretty big margin. I mean, we haven't even seen Arlis Boardingham reach his final form yet this year. So between him and Hayden Hansen alone, Florida, I mean, I think Florida's even deeper than that, but just between those two, I think that Florida's probably got one of the better tight end rooms in the SEC. If only the rest of the offense could do its part, maybe they could show it.
All right, so let's move to the defensive side of the ball here. And this is where we now look at the defensive line. Obviously, we mentioned Coach Chaos, Sean Spencer is now coaching that unit. Florida really just hasn't gotten the push on the defensive side of the ball. And, I mean, Tyreek Sapp played a very good game against Samford, was kind of non-existent against Miami. Newcomer George Gums Jr. showed a lot in actually I think both matchups. But right now, Neil, I got to favor A&M here because I just haven't seen enough from this unit that they can get back to the passer consistently enough.
I think A&M does have a very good front seven. I think that Florida is going to take a step forward in this game, but not a very big one. I think that we'll probably see an angry Cam Jackson, an angry Caleb Banks. I mean, all those guys we talked about this offseason. I mean, TJ Searcy, I mean, at edge, Kelby Collins, Cameron James, we've heard his name get called a few times. So I think it's time that Florida, like I said earlier, finally plays with some anger. But, I mean, A&M did fairly well at replacing those pieces that they lost a year ago. So, tough. And also, we don't really know a whole lot about them because we don't know how good Notre Dame really is after they go and lose to Northern Illinois. And I don't know how much A&M really proved by beating up on McNeese. So I'll say a push, but that's just because I don't have any real data on them.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so linebacker room. This is one where I think this is the best unit Florida has on the defensive side of the ball. I like the Gators here, especially if Shamar James and Grayson Howard are not rotated out as much like we saw certainly last week, but I would like to see less of it in this game even than we did in the Miami game. RJ Motton has actually been a really nice surprise in this room, has played incredibly well. Actually, right now is second on the team for tackles and has the most solo tackles. Played a fantastic game against Samford and honestly played a pretty good game against Miami as well. I really like what he's doing there. I think he's finally at home in his position. I like the Gators in the linebacker matchup here.
I do too. I have to say, I really like what I saw from Pup Howard in the Miami game. That was one of the few bright spots that there was in that game. I think that Florida's got the better linebacking room. In part, you can tell that because of how excited Texas A&M was to get Florida's recycling bin contents. No offense to Scooby, but I think there's a reason why he left, and there's a reason why Florida got Pup Howard, and there's a reason why Shamar James came back. And there's a reason why the current teams are where they are in Napier's third year and Elko's first year from a roster standpoint. Like I said, paper doesn't always equate to a win or loss on the field, but I think just we're talking strictly rosters. I like Shamar James and I like Pop Howard and I like Florida's freshmen, really. Miles Graham and Aaron Child. I like them more than what A&M has.
Yeah, I think the room is a little bit deeper for Florida. I mean, Torian York does lead the team for tackles at A&M with 13.
We didn't talk about receivers, did we?
We did. We
talked about tight ends and offensive line and running backs.
No, I think we covered it. We said
that. Who did you say for receivers?
I said Florida.
Okay,
by a long shot. We said by a long shot.
So that I don't remember bringing up this point. The one guy on A&M's offense, really on A&M's whole team, that frightens me a little bit is Moose Muhammad, their receiver. If you remember, he kind of burned Florida a few years ago in that 2022 game with 7 catches for 99 yards. He had one really nice catch on the sideline. So if Connor Rugman can throw the ball, and I know we've gone out of order now, but really, like, this is the one roster piece for A&M that actually has me a little worried. If Wegman can hit some throws to Moose Muhammad, Florida might be in some trouble. But that's a big if, because Wegman as a thrower isn't really that great.
Moose Muhammad, only 2 catches for 23, did get a touchdown in the last game. Cyrus Allen is the leading receiver with 100 yards. No touchdowns for him yet. But to your point, Dagan, has the physical ability to go up and get the ball, so he could be a big pass catcher. But we covered linebacker. We'll get back to defense here. We'll cover the guys that will be covering the receivers now, and that is the DB room. You know, Neil, this is tough for me to pick Florida, and the reason why is because I don't know how healthy they are. Asa Turner, we don't know if he's going to be available or when he will return. We don't know Devin Moore's availability for this game. Jakeem Jackson went down for an injury in the game against Samford. So I don't know how deep we are right now at this DB room. And that is concerning, especially as you just mentioned, the concern of a playmaker like Moose Muhammad or Cyrus Allen. So right now, Neil, the DB room, the safeties, I got to pick A&M until I see them have a stellar game. And once again, you know, they haven't even gotten an interception in this season. They did get the fumble, the forced fumble, and the fumble recovery in the Sanford game. That was by Jason Marshall.
Shamar James picked off Cam Ward in the opener.
But it wasn't, I'm saying it wasn't a DB. The DB room has not yet gotten the interceptions. Yeah. So I haven't seen enough from this DB room to really say that they are the better room. And a lot of teams haven't successfully thrown the ball yet against this defense. So I got to favor A&M here.
Yeah, that's pretty much my analysis. I mean, I was waiting and hoping to see if you were going to somehow slip Cormani McLean's name into your analysis there. Because
he hasn't played yet, so it's not really.
I know, but as a dark horse, I was being facetious. No, I mean, I think Florida's secondary is going to be okay if the rest of their defense can do its part. Like I said, all off season long, I think Sharif Denson and Jakeem Jackson, well, he's not healthy now, but I think that those, and Jordan Castell, and those first to second year guys can make a big leap there, along with Devin Moore. But again, we haven't seen any tape that says otherwise. I mean, they weren't bad against Miami. A lot of the throws Cam Ward made were because the defensive line couldn't get any pressure, and no cornerback or no secondary can really cover well for more than 7 or 8 seconds. But I guess I'll take Florida, but with the caveat that we don't have a lot of tape on either side. Come 2 or 3 weeks from now, we'll have a lot more expert analysis on these. For sure.
Agreed. I agree. All right. So we've previewed this matchup. We've previewed the teams, the rosters, the key players. Let's get to our final verdict here, Neil. We're going to give our keys to the game. We're going to give our score predictions and our percent chance that we think Florida has to win this game. So, Neil, what are your keys to the game?
Start DJ Lagway. Play DJ Lagway and block for DJ Lagway, at least long enough that he can somewhat go through his progressions. I don't think especially highly of Texas A&M's offensive line. I think that they have 3 3-stars and 2 4-stars there, and that's kind of about how they looked in the game against Notre Dame. They looked okay, but certainly not great. I think the only 2 4-stars were Trey Zune at left tackle and Chase Pisantis at left guard. I don't think anyone else was a blue chip recruit, and that's kind of what showed. You had some good plays here and there, but Notre Dame got a lot of push on a lot more plays than A&M will liked. So Florida has to get a lot of push because, like I said, it's time to play pissed off. It's time to play like you know that something is going to change at the head coaching position if you don't start winning some games. And it's time that you imposed your will on an opposing quarterback in the swamp again, like we did last year with Joe Milton, like we did with Cam Rising on that last throw that was intercepted by Amari Burney. You're never going to convince me that the swamp's roar didn't at least somewhat influence that decision to throw that ball there. So go after Connor Wegman, make him make bad decisions, and let's see if your secondary can essentially field some arm punts and get some short fields as a result of that.
Yeah, and I think important to note here, there are 4 teams that are ranked ahead of Florida on the 247 talent composite. Texas A&M is one of them, not by a lot, 905 to Florida's 894.
Yeah, that's negligible.
It's very negligible. Florida 4 or 5 stars, A&M 7, but Florida has more 4 stars with 48 to their 43. And the average player ranking is 90.44 for A&M and 90.09 for Florida. So not a massive delta. Certainly, there's a much bigger delta between us and then a team like Georgia and Texas, who we're going to be facing much later on in the season.
Which is why you have to win this game, and you don't have a choice.
Absolutely.
Just then survive.
Right. So that being said, my keys to the game here, and the reason I brought that up is because you talked about opposing your will on an opponent. The talent discrepancy really isn't much where we can, I think, can impose our will if things go right. My key to the game is clarity at the quarterback position. I don't care who starts, but whoever starts and plays the most, win us the game. Go win us the game. Don't make mistakes. You're playing at home. Let's play discipline, turnover-free football. Let's have some clarity in this matchup at that position. My second key to the game is going to be the crowd. I think that the Miami game, the crowd was not in it. It's not because that it was necessarily the fans' fault, but the fans didn't have anything to cheer about. If this team gives something for the fans to cheer about, the swamp will be electric. It will be the swamp. This will be a sold-out 90,000 plus crowd for this game. So it can make a difference, especially with a team who has yet to have a road start this year. It'll be the first one in a pretty hostile environment. And finally, my third and final key to the game is play the right guys. Stop with the rigmarole of alternating and having all these rotations. Find your best guys at the right position. Play them the majority of the game. When they need a blow, sub them out for a couple of plays and get your best players back in there. You've got to play your best guys from here on out. We cannot rotate players. Forget the development piece of it. You just got to win games. So for me, that is my final key to the game. All right, Neil, I know you are writing down your score prediction. I am also going to do the same. We do this so we always, because we tend to be pretty close to this game. Going into this matchup, Texas A&M, of course, is a 4.5 point favorite now in the game. It's back up to 4.5 after it had gotten down to 3.5. The over-under is 46.5 or 47.5, depending on what book you're looking at. So that being said, Neil.
Chris, also write down your percent chance to win.
Okay, I got you. And Neil, so give me your percent chance to win and your score prediction. And I'm going to write mine down now here on this piece of paper.
All right. Can we see it?
Hold on a second.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. Mine's on a sticky note, so it's not as technical as Neil. I should need to get mine. So mine says 50% chance the Gators have to win.
50-50. Okay.
And I'm taking the Gators to win 24-20.
So the reason that I'm saying A&M wins is because I think Florida just loses the game. I think that there are some games where teams go out and make plays to win them. And I think there are some games when teams just self-destruct and lose them. And like we said before, the pattern that's been playing out is that Billy Napier just loses games. It doesn't matter what form it takes or if his team wants to invent a new way. to lose a game. I mean, we've seen a replicate jersey infraction lose a game. You've seen a substitution issue against Arkansas losing a game. We've seen the offensive and defensive lines both get manhandled, and that lose us a game. We've seen the defense give up school records of yards or give up 4th and Texas to go to lose games. We've seen playing the wrong players lose us the game. I don't know what form it's going to take here. We've seen fielding a punt in our own end zone lose the game. I mean, it just at some point it just becomes who you are. Like I said, it's not meant in an ad hominem way. It's just Billy Napier, by a strictly literal go Google his record sense, is a loser. He is a losing coach. He has lost more games than he has won. And I think that's going to continue because that's the trend he has set. And I don't have anything to prove me wrong right now. I don't have any evidence that suggests that won't continue.
Fair enough. I mean, I think that's honestly, Neil, that's valid. I think it's all of that is fair. And until otherwise noted, I think it's okay certainly reserve the right to have that prediction. I went back and forth on this. Going into up until this afternoon, I was going to pick Texas A&M to win this game. But I do believe Billy Napier last year won that Tennessee game in the 3rd game of the season in the SEC opener at home. I see this as somewhat similar in that, and I also kind of have a similar feeling that I did to the South Carolina game last year, whereas like you need to prove something to me. And in that matchup, I did take South Carolina. If people remember, Florida ultimately pulled the game out of their hat at the end. I think the Gators find a way at home to get this done. And that's honestly because of the fact that I don't think Connor Wegman is a very good quarterback. Miami exploited Florida's weaknesses in a big way because he is a very good, or Cam Ward is a very good quarterback. I think that Connor Wegman is not going to be able to do that. I like Florida to have a good defensive game here. And I also think that DJ Lagway is going to have a bigger impact in this game than people realize. So therefore, I'm taking the Gators to get a close 24-20 game. It wouldn't even surprise me if Florida had a last-minute touchdown to win the game. So I'm going to take the Gators to win. I could easily see this being flipped, though, 24-20, Texas A&M. I'm going to ride with the Gators for this one, though.
I mean, like I said, I think that's possible. I don't really trust Connor Wegman as a thrower of the football. I think that, and like I said, Moose Muhammad is a guy that we've seen do it before. He's got the physical abilities to make the plays, but I'm not really that scared of A&M on paper because, like we've talked about all offseason long, this is a game Florida probably should win because it's in the swamp and they were decimated from their roster a year ago and they went through our recycling bin and all that and all that and all that. But I'm of the mindset, because it's what I've seen play out over and over and over again, that Florida is just going to find ways to lose.
Fair enough. Well, we will find out. 3:30 this Saturday in the Swamp. It is the SEC opener. Texas A&M is coming to town, and we will find out who is starting, who plays the majority of the snaps, and who ultimately prevails in this game. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in to another episode of the In All Kinds of Weather Forecast previewing this matchup. Make sure, if you have not already, hit that subscribe button down below, like this episode, and leave us a comment, your score prediction, and who you think or who you want to start in this game, Graham Mertz or DJ Lagway. And if you're listening on our audio formats, please rate and review the show. It helps us bring Gator Nation more great content. So from all of us here at the In All Kinds of Weather Forecasts, I'm your host, Chris Yanes, alongside Neil Schulman, signing off from another great episode.